When I first got my first headless guitar, believe it or not, I thought these top nuts were self-cutting. I put my string in and I tightened it so hard it was just snapping the strings, and I burned through a lot of sets of strings that way. Total noob, but since then I've restrung these guitars probably thousands of times, and now for 2025 I'm going to do an updated string changing video. Yeah, it is a video, right? And this new Kiesel, it has the updated saddles, which I'm intrigued to see. I think there's a couple of things that's really useful to have. I like this neck sort of holder device. That's by D'Addario. I think it just gives me more access to the guitar. It makes it way easier to do anything up at the top nut there. String cutters, because you can't cut strings in a more effective way than a string cutter, so have one of those to hand. I don't recommend you do the final tuning with the guitar laid out like this, but it's definitely useful to get roughly up to pitch with a tuner. This is a rubber in the UK. Maybe you call it a razor, an eraser. But yeah, I like to have something like that to go under the bridge, because today we're gonna do one string at a time, but sometimes you might get fancy and you might like go in and start cleaning up your neck, get the brushes out, clean between the pickups and do all stuff like that. And if you don't have some support behind that bridge, it's best to have something like this under the bridge. So actually I'm gonna just leave that under there right now, just so it stops that trend going too far back. A couple of Allen keys, as we call them in the UK, maybe have a different name, wrenches. Sorry, I keep doing really bad accents. You can slate me in the comments. I'm just in one of those moods today, and this Americano. Oh, that espresso is it's like a freight train today. It's got me going. A lot of people seem to forget this, but the Kiesel hipshot trems, you can actually tighten the bar. So at the end, once we're all done, I like to just kind of make sure that the bar has enough movement in it. Some people like it really, really loose, and right under there, you can see there's a little Allen key that you can tighten. You can make it really, really loose, or you can just give it a little turn and get it so it's a perfect tension. I don't like it too tight, so I just like it about there, so you can move it gently out of the way. So you can see on these new upgraded trem systems that Kiesel are using, they have these slotted saddles. And that, my friends, is very interesting, because that's the exact mechanism that is supposed to make this restring stuff quicker. I'm going to use NYXLs. I have this lovely set of 25, which is down to about 7 sets left now, so I like some NYXLs. This is super convenient because you can just rip a string out at a time, and ba 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 bam. That coffee has gone straight to my head. I feel like an actual lunatic, okay? Apologies in advance, okay? But I will do my best. Right, first things first, tension off that string all the way down, okay? Get it really, 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 really loose. So right away I can see that there's a difference. Usually on another guitar, well, an older trem, you'd have to sort of fish it out, drag it upwards, and kind of come up with that angle. But you can see now it actually just came straight out there, which is pretty cool. Loosen off that top nut, pull the string out, and just get it safely out the way. About this time, I usually put some Brock Berrigan on, some chilled lo-fi, something like that. Keep your strings, maybe you do the D'Addario recycling thing. Despite changing strings like 1,000 times, I still have to read, right, it's gold, even though I just took a gold one off. Look at that. The first thing that I like to do, get the thing through the top here, okay? You're gonna have a lot of excess string, but that's all right. Now this is the bit that I'm intrigued about. Basically, on the new upgraded trem system, you no longer need to fish it through here. If you imagine there's a bar here, and then kind of get the perfect angle, it looks like you can just go straight down to the hole. I like to use an Allen key just to pop it in the hole, hold it in place like that, pull the top tight and downwards, okay? This is the way that I do it. I then put my thumb down, and I take my snippy snippers, and I just commit right there and then. And usually I could pull it back just a little bit so it's just flush. And it's at this stage that you can decide that, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip another mil or so off that end. Because if the string is too long, what happens is you over tighten the bottom tuner there, and you get a little bit of the sort of screw popping out. So I'm just going to do a tiny snip, just a little bit. Remember, you can always cut again, but if you cut too much off, it is game over. So I'm just feeling it with my thumb because I don't want any jaggies sticking out the end. And I'm just going to tighten that down, and we're going to get that perfect tightness where it's not overly tightened. You go too far, you're going to crush it and it's going to snap out. And then at this side, we can just make sure that it's popped down into the hole. And once it's hooked onto the hole in the trem, this is where you can kind of see like, okay, am I looking like I've got too much string? Because at this point you could say, well, actually my string is like up here, and when I tighten it, it's going to be a little bit too much. Over time, you kind of get a good idea of like how much you can cut off. So I think we're in the right ballpark here, and because it's a low string, as I begin to tighten, it'll probably go down pretty quick. So check this out. Probably a full couple of turns of the tuner and we've got tension on it. Sometimes I go from the lowest string to the highest string and just kind of work my way back and forwards. And other times I just go from the lowest string to the highest strings. There's no crazy science behind this, but we're going to just start to speed this up a little bit and just see how quick we can rattle through all of these. So I'm going to take that top nut, pull it out, pull out the string. So again, we're going straight through that top section. I'm going to get it through, push that straight down into the hole. Yeah, I can feel that is definitely quicker. So again, we're going to get those guys right to the top, cut it, and then with one movement, I'm just going to pull my thumb back, and I can feel right there, it's just disappeared, so it's nice and flush. And then I'm just going to begin, tighten it. So way quicker, because we're starting to go more like my full speed now. I'm going to make sure it's in the hole, which it is. It's looped and snug into that little hole. And we're going to begin tightening it. Look at that. Excellent. Let's go to the D string, where you can really tell the difference between the old and new strings. Fresh strings, got that little bit of an extra zing about it. Take them off, pull them out of the saddle, wrap it up. So once again, we're going straight through that top section, keeping the string from bending too much. We don't want to accidentally damage the string. Straight through that saddle, ready into the hole. Into the hole you go. Pull it down, finger tight at the top. Get that thumb down in place. Confirm everything looks good. And then chop it. Chop. Let go of that end. We'll get him later and just gently pull him back. There we go. Perfect. Tighten him up. Not too tight. Excellent. He's already gripped in there. Yeah, I can feel the speed difference actually. This is good. Perfect. So right here on the tuners, I'm not getting a lot of like, what is it? The bolt, the sort of nut coming through the tuners. So I've got a lot of play. I can go sharper and flat and stuff like that, and we're going to be good. So what I might do is I might do an example of when things go slightly wrong. Your string's a little bit longer. Nice and quick, push that through. Oh yeah, it actually pops out very nicely as well. Good job. I'm going to just show you how easy it is to correct it. Okay, so we're going to get it into the hole, hold it in place, and I'm going to kind of pull it like roughly tight enough, right? And then I'm going to cut it, right? And then I'm going to feed it back through, and I'm going to tighten it up. I'm going to commit to it like we did before, right? Okay, so we've got tension on, it's pretty tight. I'm going to tighten it up. And it doesn't look crazy long, but you can, for an unwound string, it looks a little bit longer. And what's going to happen is we're going to have these extra winds on the tuners, and then eventually what's going to happen is the end of the nut's going to start to stick out. So you can see that a little bit on the top-down camera. You see that? I don't like that. It's not a major problem, and we still have some ways that we could still tighten it. we're going to hit the end of it, right? You can see there on the top-down camera now, we've really hit the end of it. So if you do that, it's not total game over. You haven't wasted the string. We can just go back, unwind that string, unwind that string, unwound. Unwind the unwound string. We're going to correct that. So we're going to do that. We're going to take the top. I'm going to try and keep the string just nice and straight. And what we're going to do is we're just going to snip a little bit off at a time, okay? 4 or 5 mil. And then I'm just going to go back, pop that G string back in. We're going to make sure it's nice and flush with the headstock, just feeling for it. Get the Allen key in there, spin them around, tighten them up a little bit. And then we're going to get that G string in. All right, got a couple of really cool tips for you here. So the first one is if you've cut that string just a little bit short and you're struggling to get it into the saddle, you can use your left hand to bring the saddles forward a little bit, and that'll help you a lot. Another thing is if you're really hot or a bit sweaty or whatever, and you're struggling to twist that G string, the unwound strings especially can be sometimes just a little bit slippy. It's not something you always have a problem with, but this is a really good tip. Like I start doing this on live streams where it's like 2 hours into a stream, the studio's cooking, I'm really kind of like greased up a little bit. Restringing in that environment sometimes is a bit of a pain. So what I do is I add a little bit of gaffer or masking tape, and you can see now I'm able to twist that unwound string really easily. Once you feel it hooked on, you can just go for it, begin tightening just as normal. And then we'll get all the way up to pitch without having the screw sticking out the end of the tuner. Let's move on to the B string. We are almost there. This is great. Coffee's still warm. Probably not that warm. Get them into the saddle nice and quick so we know what length we're playing with. Hold them down tight with the Allen key there just so we can get that string nice and tight before we lock it down. And then twist it down at the top, cut it, pull it back ever so slightly, lock it down, nice and smooth at the top. Drop the Allen key, that's why we have a spare. Tighten them up. Perfect. And then we can go down here. When you're trying to feel for that grip, make sure you use like your pinky just to push that saddle forward, just so you're not trying to get the ball end to hook onto nothing, if that makes sense. So you just make sure that saddle is pushed forward with your pinky. Final E string, and then we are done. Hold it into the saddle, finger tight at the top, pull it downwards, grab it with a thumb. Looks good to me. Move the Allen key out the way. Go straight in, nice and flush against that nut. Now that time I can see I actually did not cut it nice and flush against the headstock area. So I'm just going to take another mil or two. I'm going to be very careful I don't go too far here. Just a couple of mil. Get them back through that top nut there. And just do again. Just make sure that, yep, perfect. Just nice and flush, but obviously not too far. Tighten them up. Here we go. Feel them locked in. Begin tightening it up. So about this stage is where we can grab that tuner, pop it on the headstock. This is a little D'Addario clip-on tuner. Super duper cool. And we can angle it around so I can see how close or how far we out. So that's sharp. Is flat. Sharp. Oh, and don't forget to take that masking tape off the G string. So now that we're roughly in tune, give or take a few cents here and there, can pull that trem forward, pull out that rubber from behind the trem. I can pull the trem all the way back, dive it, give the strings a little bit of a tighten, and it'll just help to make sure that the guitar is nice and stable when you're bending and stuff. You know, just give them a little bit of a wiggle. You don't need to go crazy because we're going to play it probably a lot, right? As soon as we get up to tension. But even right there, I can tell that that's pretty much dialed in. It's ready for its final tuning, which we'll do on the tuner on the floor. Because again, you don't want to tune the guitar when it's like this. You want to tune it like this in the way that we're going to play it. So let's do that. All right, time for that final tune-up. One thing I like to do to save some time is I don't pick each note and go back and forwards. I just pull it with my fourth finger. It's a lot quicker. Damn, we're pretty close actually. Just slightly flat on the D string. Usually you'll be flat rather than sharp, and when you go crazy with the trem, do some big bends, you might get some strings that go either way, sharp or flat. But this is pretty much there. All right, let's try a couple of chords with the McRocklin suite. Have a little jam. So there we go, guys. That's my Kiesel restring video. Hopefully you got some tips and tricks out of this one. If you did, drop a thumbs up on the video, and if you're feeling extra generous, then also subscribe whilst you're down there. If you have any questions about anything that went down today, or you're struggling, whatever it might be, let me know in the comments. I'd love to help you out with that as well. Have a great day, and I'll see you back here real soon. All right, cheers, bye.